Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm delighted to welcome Abby Oniru. We're going to be talking about rent to rent, everything to do with property and how you cash flow and how you start out in rent to rent, because Abby now has bought 2 properties, I believe.
Yes.
All using the cash flow of rent to rent, which is awesome. And then we're going to touch into the entrepreneurial spark that Abby's got, and also the big reason why, because that's something that we need to address, is what is your reason for trying to achieve success and financial freedom that we always talk about. So without further ado, stick around and let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Now, before we begin on today's podcast, I'd just like to say a big thank you to Casita Properties, the UK leading property company when it comes to off-market, discreet buy-to-let sales. All their links will be in the description below. Abby Oniru, I welcome you to my channel. Practice of your name there. Abby, for all the viewers, please give us a 30,000 view of who you are and what you do.
Hi guys, so my name is Abby Oniru. I am a property coach, property expert. I help people make money when it comes to property. I specialize in rent to rent and then exiting from rent to buying your own buy to let.
Cool. Well, we're going to talk about using rent to rent as a cash flow system and business in order to then, like you say, you're going on to buying your own properties. So, which is a great strategy. It's a really, I suppose, reliable, very simple, not overcomplicating things, which is kind of where we're going to start with. So people watching this, they might be wanting to get into property. They have a 9 to 5, very much the norm. Okay. How does someone get into rent to rent?
So I'd first say get a mentor, aka me. But yeah, no, I'd say get a mentor. Let them show you the guide, the step-by-step way to get into it. People say things like you need a degree and all of this stuff, and you really do not. Honestly, you don't. What you need is the tools, taking action as well, because action is so important. There's one thing learning something from a course, and then there's another thing actually taking action and doing it. And I teach you to do both, to then getting into property and getting up that ladder by getting a rent-to-rent deal. Cool.
Well, for those of you that don't know what rent-to-rent is, it's essentially finding a landlord that doesn't necessarily want to deal with the property, right? Mm-hmm. And you take it over, you split those individual rooms into and turn it into a HMO or a mini mo, and then obviously you benefit from a higher income from those rooms. Yeah. It's taught at a lot of courses, a lot of big educational companies. But like you said, there's a really important point about taking action. It's great learning it, but if you're not pulling the trigger. So what are the first steps for someone who perhaps has a little bit of capital, not to get on the full property ladder of buying their own property, but starting out in rent to rent? What are the first few steps?
So the first few steps is first get a mentor, let them teach you, guide you, show you what to do. From then on, learn that inside out, because when it comes to property, you need to know the market, you need to do your due diligence, the location, everything in it, because you can't just get a deal, get excited and just don't make sense of numbers. So make sure you do your due diligence before then. And then from there, negotiate a good deal with the landlord and then get the keys.
Done.
Yeah.
But what about numbers? Talk to us about numbers, because obviously this is going to be really important, knowing the numbers, because like you said, I know a lot of people get excited. I know a lot of people that have gone and found rent to rent and they've spoken to me about it. But when they start crunching the numbers, actually, it's not that the hassle's not worth it for the return on income, return on investment. So what do you look for when it comes to the numbers? What's the first thing?
So my numbers, I'd say minimum of 500 profit. So how I do that is I calculate, do I have to take the bills? Every landlord is different. Some landlords take bills, some landlords don't. Or you can negotiate between the way. Let's say your landlord, you take your council tax, I take your water, your gas and electric. There's so many different ways around it, but calculate how much a landlord wants. Me personally, I'll look at the average rent within that specific area. So then I know, okay, these are the numbers. So when I speak to the landlord, I'll say, I'm happy to give you guaranteed rent of this amount. So it don't have to be some high number, because then it won't make sense on my end. Okay, so calculate my numbers. And then from then I will obviously write it down, get your calculator out. And then, you will then know what to pitch to the landlord when you're speaking to the landlord, because then your numbers make sense. And this is why me personally, before I even approach a landlord, I do my due diligence within the area, so I know what I should offer him, because I will know what the room by room go for within the rates.
So do you, okay, so that's a new one. So would you
is it?
explain the numbers to the landlord then? Or would
No,
you be,
no. I never explain it.
Yeah.
I do my own numbers.
Yeah.
If I tell the landlord my strategy, he will then try to be greedy and go, oh, but if you're doing that, let me get this. So I just make sure I get the average rent within that specific area so he don't feel like he's being cheated or anyway. And then from then, for example, you go onto a platform, look at the average rent per room, calculate everything all together. Does the numbers make sense? Is it minimum of 500 profit? And then I'll go for it.
Cool. So, because that is one thing that obviously people will come up against is almost not announcing it too much to a landlord,
Yeah.
because, like I say, if they get whiff of how much could be made, they're going to go, well, no, I'm going to do it now myself. So, but of course, you do need to be open and transparent, I suppose, because again, that's how you're going to build credibility and trust. Is I think what you say there about trying to make sure that you're getting a good amount for the landlord so he can go, okay, do your thing.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, is that you try and get the best amount for the landlord to let you do your thing. When you start rent to rent, is this something that you would perhaps recommend you start in your own name, or would you go straight for a limited company?
You can, well, do you know what? There's pros and cons in that. So, for example, let's say you go through an estate agent. Sometimes they want it to be under a company. Landlords, I feel like they tend to feel more comfortable if it's in a company rather than a specific name. So, with all my students, I do say, if you're serious in this game, set up a company immediately, because then obviously you've got insurances that you need to as well. But yeah, so I'd say, do your company.
Cool. So how long has it taken you to scale a rent-to-rent business?
How long would you say it taken me? No more than a year, to be honest. And it's just due to my work ethic. And I had to reprogram my brain to get into my... So I work I'm very hard on myself. So I do this thing where someone's goal could be, I don't know, to get one house within the year. So, yeah, that's good. But me, no, I want 10. Like, do you know what I mean? So the bigger your numbers, the bigger you'll work towards it. So that's how I work. And that's how I was able to scale faster.
So what would you say is achievable for someone who, you know, because I like to pitch this from the angle of, you know, someone's full-time in work, or perhaps they're doing shift work and they're trying to pull themselves away from that and start this side hustle. If we're talking about rent to rent.
Yeah.
You know, what kind of realistic time frame would you say to someone, look, let's not go overboard, but let's also not go too small. Let's have an bigger achievable numbers. Target. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, just going to get my calculations out here. So, let's say you want 5K a month. I reverse engineer everything, yeah? So let's say you want 5K a month, that will replace your 9-to-5 salary. How many houses if you're going to go for 500 minimum in profit? So you're looking at 10 houses, or even less if it's like you're making $1,000 or something. From there, reverse engineer it. How fast can I do this? I personally believe it's doable to get 2 deals per month. But you have to obviously be organized. So you can't use your 9-to-5 as an excuse to why, I can't do it. No, you can. But literally have a spreadsheet, write everything out in the nighttime, who you're going to call. You honestly plan to do this stuff. And then after, you make your calls in your lunch, even in the evening. You have to grind in this game. So once you've done that, within 6 months, you've achieved your 10 houses and you made your 5K a month.
Has there always been an entrepreneurial spark? Because we'll touch on this, is that you do have to put in the hours when others perhaps aren't willing. And I've said this on a previous podcast, but there's the saying of, if you want to get to the stage where you don't want to look at the price tag, you can't be looking at the clock. Yeah. So, and that's totally true, is I think, you know, when it sets in for some people to be an entrepreneur, to be a business owner, and you say that you might have to work X amount of hours, 7 days a week, it's quite daunting, and people then check in with themselves. So, you know, to launch this business, you're doing a lot of branding, which we'll touch on towards the end. You know, is that something that's always been in you, or is this organically over time sort of started to come out more and more?
To be honest, from school, I didn't like the 9-to-5 type of mentality. They didn't really teach us like that in school, but no one taught us about being an entrepreneur, none of that in school. They taught us get good grades and then, you know, you'll get a good job. That's all we was ever taught. Me personally, I failed my GCSEs, probably got 3 GCSEs. Honestly, it was on my birthday. I felt like I was a failure. I was like, oh my gosh, because of the mindset and what they taught us. They didn't tell us we could do BTEC. There's so many, but from there, it was a lesson learned, because it shows that whatever, what grade, I don't personally feel like grades define, well, I know it don't define me. And I realized when I was on social media, there was all these different names that I never knew before that didn't even have a degree, and all of this stuff that people are telling us. And I feel like once I had my daughter, that's when I pushed through, like, very hard. Like, I said, nah, someone's relying on me now. I can't be, doing I couldn't do a 9 to 5. I just can't, I can't.
Yeah, you have to have a big reason why, don't you? I mean, I can relate to that.
Why.
Yeah, I can relate to that with my son. It's a huge driving force to get you through and certainly change your life. So I think that's an important point to remind people, is that you need to tap into your why, which is ultimately becomes your engine, that fire in your belly. So why property? There are so many businesses out there. Obviously a friend of yours who's going to come on the channel soon is in a totally different business. There are many opportunities to make money, and sometimes property can be the slower business model. But so why have you chosen property?
So first, I've always liked property from young to old. My dad and mum's in property. But me personally, I honestly just love property. And at the end of the day, with whatever it is that you're doing, you're always going back to property. Like, you're going to invest. So why not invest now rather than wait in 10, 20 years' time and everything's all gone up? So I personally feel like I've always loved property. I love seeing beautiful houses and all of this stuff. And when I saw the type of money that you can make, I thought, that's where my money is, And so I felt like, with what I'm doing, I'm building a property empire for myself that I could give back to my child and then my kid, later in the future and all that stuff. So that's why I honestly love property, because everyone always goes down to property at the end of the day.
I think property, you are right in the sense of a lot of people do end up falling back, or not necessarily even falling back, but that's where a lot of the money will sit behind. People cash flow through a business, it becomes profitable, and then they go on to buy property. So, but maybe I think the reason why people don't start out is because it is a harder entry level in terms of there is more capital involved. Just as an idea, sort of how much capital did you start when you started your rent to rent, and then kind of what that looked like from buying your first property?
So the capital I'd say started, you're looking at no more than, well, obviously I had money in my savings, but with that specific property, it was no more than let's say 1K, to be honest. That wasn't the house, what I had to do, but that's why I tapped into, because I first hit that London, I said it don't make sense, it's too expensive for no reason. Then I tapped into up north. That's where the money is. And with my strategy anyway, because anyone could get a property up north, for less than 100K and get 700 a month of the house. I don't do that. I do room by room, because I know you can make more money from that. So it literally depends on somebody's strategy and the way they're doing it. But with my strategy, I felt like I could leverage it, which is what I did. So yeah.
And how did that then convert? So the cash flow from the rent to rent, obviously going into some pot, saving, building that up. And then what did that look like in terms of your first deal of, because you're sitting at 2 houses currently at the moment?
Yeah, and by God's grace, even more, literally building up, literally lined up. It'll go on social soon. But yeah, it's literally lined out literally right now. But that's my goal right now, is to continue to buy houses, because I want to become a millionaire, and I know I will by the end of this year, in Jesus' name. I know what I'm going to do in order to do that. And remember, when you're a millionaire, it's not what's in your bank, it's what's the assets that you have. And that's why I say everyone comes back to property. Whatever strategy you use, you go back to property because it's brick, and that's where people live. I knew with property, everyone needs a place to live. That was the smart thing for me. I said, yeah, that will never go bust in Jesus' name. But that will never go. No, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you have insurance just in case, something. But yeah, apart from that, everyone needs somewhere to live. So I said, that's smart.
Well, when it comes to females in property, this is something I like to touch on, is that sometimes it can be quite daunting. There are a lot of females that I personally know that really want to get into property, and they're held back mainly because of not necessarily knowing where to start, it being a little bit daunting, thinking that it's male dominated, and just sort of having connections of, say if a female goes into a networking room and it's predominantly male, it can almost hold them back for their own opportunity, which is, there is a slight conversion now.
I know.
But it still is heavily male dominated. What would you say to other females?
I would say go for it, sis. Don't let that stop you. No, honestly, because people do say, oh yeah, it's male dominated, da da da. But why can't a female get into property? With me, I never let that hold me back. I leverage on it, because people say, oh, female, she's doing this, oh my gosh. And that inspires other people to do it. Even my students, a lot of them are female and they're doing it now. And it just goes to show, I feel like, with property, depending on your strategy and what it is, I don't know. Even like I seen one girl, she like does building in property, which is amazing. I love stuff like that because that's property development and stuff. But you would think, oh, that's what males do. But now we're in the 21st century. Like, go for it.
Is it Charlotte, accidental female property developer?
Yeah, her. Yeah.
So I recently had Charlotte on.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
And one thing that she said, which I agree with actually, is that if other females are perhaps holding themselves back because they don't want to jump because thinking, it is dominated, or it's, I don't know who to speak to. Actually, the good thing is go and find another female that's doing it.
Exactly.
and just learn from them.
Exactly.
Which I think is a good entry point. If you don't know where to start, go look for another female that's in the industry and doing it, and doors will open.
Exactly. And I'd definitely say as well, leverage that you're a female and you're doing it, because people will be like, wow, this is inspiring, like literally, because any male could do it, but then when you see a female, it's like, oh, a female. So let's use that to then leverage of it and do amazing in property.
Yeah. Well, what I would say is get in touch with yourself or people like Charlotte. Absolutely. Yeah. How important has your network been?
How important has it been? Oh, very important, definitely. I feel like from last year to this year, I'm going to more networking events, and it's so good to just connect with people. And even like with females who may, be scared or whatever, go to networking events, start speaking to people and connecting with people, and also socialize with people on Instagram, because you will get so many different connections that you wouldn't have if you didn't open your DMs or you go out to be doing certain things and just being active.
How have you found socials in terms of, well, a couple of questions, building the business, expanding the network, and I know that we've spoken previously about finance. How have you found using socials? Have they benefited those?
100%. Like, it's a thing where I always said to myself, with what I do, I said I have to go on socials because people need to see what I'm doing so then I can help them. Social media is such a powerful platform. You've got YouTube, you've got Instagram, you've got TikTok, you've got anything that you want. And it's a great place to show what you do and to help inspire others. And yeah, it really helps build your business 100%.
Yeah, I think it is such a powerful tool.
Yeah.
We were talking with a previous guest. It's also about having that control and balance of, one, not investing too much time but getting no return, because we could sit there all day. I mean, look, content is fairly easy to create. Yeah. TikTok's relatively easy, YouTube Shorts. You can create all this content.
Yeah.
But if you look in a month's time and you think, okay, what have I had in return for all that content? So like you say, you have to tell people what you're doing, what the opportunity is. Do you think that's really important to make sure that there's always value or a product at the end of it?
Yeah. Always have call to actions. Like if you go on my stories, I'm either selling my tickets, I'm doing something, I get my angel investors. Like, you have to tell people what you're doing so then they know what you're doing. Because otherwise, if you're just giving out content, what is the meaning of it? Like, do you know what I mean? You have to have a call to action to something. You're not just like, nothing comes for free. But yeah, content does come for free. But then if you want to learn more, then invest in yourself.
Do you find also talking about it, showing, let's take Instagram, for example, using stories for people to like get to know you.
Yeah.
And then using your feed as your product of, this is what I'm doing, this is what we have done, this is what's the opportunity. How do you kind of structure and manage your socials?
To be honest, I find it easy. Maybe because I had to program myself to make it easy. Before, in the past year, I'd feel it like it's very overwhelming. Oh my gosh, got to do story, got to do post, but you're overthinking it. Now I literally don't. Whatever comes in my head, I will then post. You know, you need to program yourself that it's fine, it's doable. Nothing, no post is perfect. And that's what people need to realize, because people look at the likes and all that stuff. But literally, I had some posts where the likes weren't all that, but I probably converted like 10K in sales. Like, do you know what I mean? So it's a thing where don't be so consumed with your likes and stuff, but it's about your marketing strategy as well. What was your call to action to it? Because whoever's interested, they're going to look at it. So, yeah.
How have you found investor interaction through socials? Like, what's
Perfect.
obviously I know we've spoken about this again, but what have you found is the best platform in terms of, and keeping this sort of based around property, what platform have you had most engagement off real investors?
Instagram.
That's interesting.
I know your one's LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had pretty good success off of Instagram, but over the years, absolutely LinkedIn always wins for me. Why do you think that is? And what type of investors are you getting from Instagram?
I know your investors are like the millionaire ones. My ones are literally, I don't know, what would you call it? I wouldn't say, not all of them are like 9-to-5 workers.
Retail, there.
Yeah, some of them are actually presenters as well. Like, I get a whole mixture of them. So, and to be honest, what I ask for is not so high. So it's a win-win, because I show people how to let your money work for you, basically. And my return's, not gonna lie, it's very high compared to other people as well. But it's because I have a whole strategy to it and why I'm doing it.
So what's the end game? Is there an end game? Is it a case of you're going to hit a certain number when it comes to the property, and then you're going to go, right, I'm good, I'm done? Or have you got other ventures that you aspire to do?
I believe I'll always be in property, but even on YouTube, I do have like a little section of Rich From, where it's me basically doing what you're doing, because I love talking to people and just to learn more about them and what they do. That's why I love social media. There's so many different platforms to do what you want to do. Also, I don't know, when it comes to property, I'll keep on investing, to be honest, because I'm trying to build some big empire here. So I'm not trying to get like 10 properties and off I go. No, like, I want to go big.
Yeah. So just keep growing and growing and growing.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, big dreams. Well, as we sort of come to a close, I'm starting to ask my guests at the end for something of inspiration, something that, you know, through their life was changing, whether it was a book, whether it's sort of a mentor, something you read, a quote. Is there a book that sticks out that you thought, that changed my life?
I'm not going to lie, no. There's no book. I do read books, but there is no book that... Because not going to lie, I used to read what's it called?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
No. There's another one. This guy. There's like 12... What's his name? Napoleon... Do you know what I'm talking about?
Napoleon Hill?
Yeah. What was that book called, though?
12 Rules to Success or something like that.
Yeah,
I think I know what
you know what I'm talking about. I really don't... I forgot the
Yeah.
name. But with that specifically, everything I read in that book, I felt like that's me. Like, it all made sense. It resonated. So I feel like with these books, but I haven't read every book, but with these books that people quote, it's like, it's there, it's in front of you. What it's saying, what you should do is there already. And it's like, I don't know how to explain what I'm saying right now. But I have no quote, I'm not going to lie. But I will say the person, what was the question, sorry? Because
Who's inspired you?
My daughter.
Your
Say
daughter.
my daughter.
So there we go. Yeah. So that's what I mean. You know, it could be a book, it could be a mentor, or something that, like say, changed your life. And obviously,
Yeah,
you
she
said that
100% changed my life.
That was your drive. That was the
Yeah.
changing point.
Exactly.
Well, it's been awesome to have you on, Abby. You know, thanks so much for coming on the channel.
you.
And for everyone that watched, thank you. And we will see you all very soon.
Thank you. Bye.